Good evening. Welcome to Q&A. I'm Tony Jones, and answering your questions tonight, the director of Griffith University's Islamic Research Unit, Imam MOHAMAD ABDALLA. Singer-songwriter Deborah Conway, whose latest recording draws on stories of the Old Testament and her Jewish heritage. Atheist, comedian and star of Please Like Me, Josh Thomas. The Catholic Archbishop of Brisbane, Mark Coleridge. And an Australian-raised Catholic whose spiritual journey led her to Tibet and to Buddhism, the Venerable Robina Courtin. Please welcome our panel. Thank you. Q&A is live from 9:35 Eastern Daylight Saving Time, and you can join the Twitter conversation using the hashtag that just jumped up on your screen. Well, our first question tonight comes from Lynn Simiana.
Yes, my question's for Josh.
Oh.
Josh, we all acknowledge that for every building there's an architect, and for every painting there's an artist, and for every book there's an author. How do you reconcile this with your belief as an atheist that our beautiful planet, with its marvels and its diversity, has no creator?
Well, there's a fairly classic atheist response to this, which is if you create something, if you think something can't just appear, then it must have a creator. That creator has to be more complicated than the thing that was built. So it's not a very satisfying conclusion for me to say that, oh, the world's beautiful, so there must be a God, because it can't just appear, because then the next question is, well, why are you comfortable with a God just appearing out of nowhere? Why don't you think he needs a creator? If you think he's more impressive than the world, which he presumably would be.
Let's hear from a Buddhist perspective on this. Robina Courtin, is there a creation story in Buddhism?
Basically, Buddha says we create ourselves, that all our minds are beginningless and endless, and every action we do leaves an imprint in the mind that produces our experiences. So he says an external creator is an unnecessary embellishment. He
doesn't say one doesn't exist, though, does he? He just refuses to talk about it.
No, he would say that's a misconception.
Would he?
About a superior... Yeah, well, if you like to say that, be controversial. But the Buddha would suggest that we need to discuss these things, and there's nothing secret and hidden, and we need to comprehend it and understand it. And so the position, I would say that I'm taking Buddha's view of the universe as my working hypothesis, and I'm happy to find Buddha wrong. It's okay.
Mark Coleridge.
Well, I'm not happy to find Buddha wrong, but I'm happy to find the Bible right in my own view. The Bible certainly posits a creator. And an uncreated creator. So your point, Josh, about who created God, in a sense, isn't a question that the Bible asks at all. And it's not a question that's on my radar screen either, I have to say. But the God who creates in the Bible is a God who brings something out of nothing. It's the only thing he's good at, is bringing something out of nothing, doing what seems to be the impossible. So it's... And what the Bible would also say is that I can't create myself. In other words, I'm led to that point of impotence where I say, I just can't do it. But at that point, you've got a God who says, well, I'll do it for you. OK, but were humans created, in your version of this, were humans created by evolution? Did they spring from apes? I haven't got the slightest problem with evolution. In fact, I think it's a great idea. Thank God for Darwin. In other words, the biblical account doesn't presume that the Bible is talking science. The Bible doesn't talk science. It's science, to call it that, has been shot to pieces long ago. What the Bible talks about is not what happened, but what it means and what its purpose is. It's a different kind of truth. So to reconcile the biblical account and evolution, I haven't got the slightest problem with that. Even with the Big Bang Theory. Right, let's get an Islamic position on this. First of all, creation. What's the Islamic version of how it began?
It began with a creator, and once we limit our understanding of a creator and give him human limitations, it becomes almost difficult to comprehend that such a limited God could create a magnificent cosmos and universe as we know it today. And that is why the Islamic concept of God, monotheism, if you like, is very emphatic. In fact, almost 1/3 of the Koran, or the holy text of Islam, is about the oneness of God, who God is and who God isn't. And it says that he is the absolute creator of the universe. God is known through attributes in Islam, and two of the attributes that are relevant to the discussion, one is Al-Khāliq, which is the creator. But that in itself may not answer the question that Did he create the universe or didn't he? So the creator, we can be creators ourselves. We can make things and call ourselves creators. But to do that, we need to have raw material. We need to have something to create something. But another attribute that the Quran...
I'll just interrupt you there. And the same question really that I asked to Mark Coleridge. Does your God create humans fully formed, or does Islam accept evolution, that man evolved from apes?
The Islamic worldview is that God created Adam and Eve, and he created humans as we know them. The Islamic understanding
so no evolution? Or?
Evolution within species, not from species. So Islam accepts the idea that evolution from within species, we adapt, we reform, we evolve in various ways, but not from a totally different species to a wonderfully amazing, perfect human being.
Yeah, the other thing, if I could just chip in here and say that for the Bible, not only does God create, but God calls the human being to be a co-creator. So it's not as if... the standard account of why God created the human being was to be a slave, to do all the dirty jobs. But in fact, what the Bible does is put a bomb under that conventional understanding, as the Bible so often does, and says, no, God created us to be co-creators with him.
So is it okay for man to create life if we reach that sort of medical...
It depends how we do it.
Technology to do that.
We can do all kinds of things, but there is a point beyond which we cannot go. But yeah, God wants the human being to cooperate in the ongoing work of creation in all kinds of ways. And human creativity is a fantastic thing.
You draw the line under cloning, I dare say.
I would.
Okay. Deborah Conway.
Yeah, it's a good question, Lynn, because, you know, there's so much beautiful poetry in the world and in the Bible as well. The Jews would say that God is unknowable, that there is nothing that any human being could actually know about a creator that can create everything. I would say the same thing. God is unknowable, but I can't subscribe to that myself. I think that science is also incredibly beautiful. There's so much poetry in the way that we perceive the world to have started from a big bang, from tiny little organisms that they have sprung into fish and birds and mammals and eventually human beings. I mean, I personally, I think there's so much extraordinariness in the world around us within the field of science that you don't necessarily need to explain it in the creator sense, in the one God putting everything together. Yeah. Having said that, Deborah, it's a very comforting idea.
I'm going to interrupt you because I've got a tweet that's just come in for you, for Deborah, from Lauren Ingram. How can you be a Jewish atheist?
Oh, that's really easy. That's a really easy question. Well, I'm Jewish because my mother was Jewish. My mother was Jewish because her mother was Jewish, and so on and so forth. You can convert to Judaism. It's not a proselytising religion, and it's really hard work if you do want to convert to Judaism. It involves a lot of many years of study and probably a small circumcision along the way if you happen to be of the opposite sex. But you can embody all of those things about being Jewish and be raised in a secular Jewish household that observes, you know, as I did in my household, Friday night dinner, Shabbos, we had Seder's at Passover, Pesach. I fast on Yom Kippur and, you know, observe Rosh Hashanah and all of those other things. But I don't know, I just can't quite go the extra mile and say, you know, and all of this is about God. But, you know, I love so much about what it is to be Jewish. I love all the songs. I love the humour. I love the food. You know, it's